Bracket racing isn't just what we do, it's who we are. It's how we identify ourselves.
What does bracket racing mean to me? It's my life. It's where my people are. My idols, my family, my friends.
Bracket racing is life. Bracket life.
Oh, better if I unmute myself. So hello, everyone, and welcome to the first BracketLife Broadcast, episode 1. So it's great to have everybody here. I'm really excited for all this. It's been a long time coming, a lot of ideas. So I hope everybody enjoys it, and I'm sure it's going to be, great time. Nerves are already getting to me, right? So as you know, we're streaming both on Facebook and YouTube right now. And in case anybody is unaware, I am Brandon Barker. I am the co-owner of BracketLife brand with my lovely wife, Rachel, and I will be one of your hosts. I've been in love with drag racing for my whole life. I've been fortunate enough to have my fair share of success to this point in the sport. So I love to share that with everybody and then continue to help grow the sport of drag racing. So now that everybody's, I'm sure, ready for it to get on, I would love to introduce my co-host, who is a multi-time, multi-track champion from Western Ontario, Southern Ontario. And I'm very excited for this. I've probably talked to Andrew more in the last 2 weeks than I have Rachel. So without further ado, let me introduce my co-host, Andrew Stirk.
Good evening, everybody. Brandon, thanks very much for making me part of the broadcast. Really honored to be a part of this and excited about, I guess, edutainment, right? It's a term I've heard a few times, and it should be fun between the bench racing, guests, and everything else we're going to be able to do. So really excited.
Absolutely. So I'm very excited for this thing. You know, you and I have talked about it. I think, say give or take 3 weeks now that it's came up. So, and as I said before, we've been on the phone constantly, messaging back and forth for all of it. So it's going to be great. I'm really excited to shine a light on Canadian drag racing.
Absolutely. I feel like we're on episode 5 by now, to be honest with you, from the last few weeks.
Yeah,
this is episode 1, but the amount of conversations we've had, it's like episode 5 or 6, That's pretty good.
Exactly.
To take it live now.
Yes, it's great to be on here. So first we want to kind of introduce to everybody what the idea of the BracketLife broadcast is and what we want to accomplish. So what we want to do is really, as I said earlier, kind of shine a light on Canadian drag racing. And that's, the racers, the events, the promoters, all the stories that come with it and that have happened and then that go unnoticed, because there is so much that people miss and then nobody hears about. So that's really what we want. Our goal is to bring, shine the light over it and then promote all of it and continue to grow our sport.
Yeah, there's a lot of great stories in Canada, and it really deserves to have an avenue and a channel to be able to bring those out to everyone, right? And this is what we're looking to do, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of great things that happen, a lot of great conversations that are Canadian bracket racing, Canadian drag racing oriented, that just don't get limelight like they should.
Yeah, I agree. And then that, so that's, where we're obviously going to start here today. And so this is going to be a bi-weekly show. So every other Tuesday, we're going to do this starting at 7:30, same as tonight. And we're not going to keep everybody for too long. We're going to try and stick right around the 45-minute mark, right? 45 minutes. I'm sure at some points that's going to be hard to manage, with the conversation going and then the opportunity with the chat stuff, which we want to share next. As everybody saw when we first was starting, we can do, and I can bring it up right now with all of it for the chat overlay. If somebody knew had one, then we have it come up. But so we can see all of the comments from Facebook, from YouTube, like right as you're making them. So if you have something to say or something to share or, anything that you want to bring up, an opinion, whatever. Share in the chat, get it out there, and then then we can talk about it.
Yeah.
And then from that, for chats or comments that we miss, that's what we're going to do at the end of the show. And what's going to kind of be our closing segment will be, going over the chat to see if we did miss anything, if there was a great point that was brought up that, we kind of skimmed over, right? You're talking about this and somebody brings up a total different situation. That's, we can hit that. So we can kind of make sure we cover all of it as well. Then if they have, if there's something great, a really awesome topic, then that'll be what we start the next show with. So we really want this to be very interactive with everyone.
Yeah, feel free. I'll through the show. Anything you got to say, errors, omissions, things like that. I mean, we're looking for feedback, right? And we're looking for interactivity with this. So
exactly. And the main topic or base that we're going to be focusing on will be Canadian drag racing, as I said, with all the racers and events and stuff. So that'll be kind of where we start right now is, and Andrew and I discussed this before, and we were going to start right into 2022, with what's coming up and all the big events, but then you can't start it only looking forward. We need to recap everything that went back first in 2021, because even with everything going on that, we all had to stay here. And I know that most of us are kind of like with the lockdowns and everything again, there still was a lot that went on in Canadian drag racing that was very positive. So that's where we want to hit on first.
Yeah, there were some huge things that happened between the last 2 years that partially maybe because of the lockdowns, the border restrictions more than anything else, right, have really brought a lot of big things to Canadian racing. And I think to start and look ahead to 2022, look at 2021, right? Like there were some big events and some big happenings that shape 2022's schedule, right?
Yeah. And it's really going to get the ball rolling for what the future is going to be like. And so, obviously we hit this, we got our show notes, we're all prepared. It almost feels professional. So first off, obviously where I'm going to start with the 2021 review is at the Bracket Super Tour, because that's what I race. So it only seems like it fits. So anybody that doesn't know, the Canadian Bracket Super Tour this year was only ran at Lustville Dragway for, scheduling issues and everything like that. But we had 4 events there. And this, I always like getting everybody wound up about it, because I think it's the most prestigious Canadian drag racing series right now. And I believe it's the richest as well for payouts for points and the consistent events.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything that would rival it, like sitting out where we are here, or even trying to look out west. And maybe next week, Travis, who's going to come on and speak about the Western Ontario or Western Canada racing, could correct us. But like the Super Tour really exemplifies some of the biggest racing in Canada right now, I think.
Yeah. And that's a great, obviously, like it's hard to kind of keep everything together. But like you brought up Travis. Travis is going to be our special guest, and we'll have different special guests on as well as we go through it. And so Travis is a race promoter from Alberta that, this year has 3 events. Last year was his inaugural event. So he's going to come on to really go back and forth with us as well, because, Andrew and I have a back and forth kind of opinion or look at it, just because I race mainly in Quebec and Andrew is Southern Ontario, right? And everybody from here knows the East versus West situation. So when we bring Travis in, we have East versus West versus West.
West, right?
West, right? So that's going to be great. I love, and Travis is a great time to talk to. So I'm excited, and I always get him. He's who I get wound up usually about the making those comments about the best money racing in Canada, right? He's like, whoa, everybody keeps forgetting about Alberta, and I personally do, because it seems like a world away.
And it just about is at times, right? Like when you're talking 24 hours to get out of Ontario just to get to Manitoba, and you still haven't reached the racetrack yet. Like that's a far away. So it's so far out of sight of mind, but there's a lot of racing out there, a lot of great racing out there with a lot of great racers,
Oh,
so it'd be good to get his opinion and talk on it.
Yeah.
In
That's
the
what I'm
interim,
excited for.
Quebec series will take the poll at the moment as the number one in Canada, just because that's the opinion of the two guys sitting here at the moment, right?
That's right. That's right. Unless anybody else wants to argue about it, then that is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of where we were kind of going to, and so I know the tour is coming out with their new schedule soon, but it was huge last year, and we had a great race series with it. It was really tight to the end, and then Terry Miron won the Super Pro on the dragster side, which was also the overall champion. Dale and Max Gaucher were the door card champions, and well-established racers from all across the board that have gone to multiple tracks and won pretty much everything. So, the Super Tour is huge, and I'm glad that it keeps growing and really strengthens the Canadian series here, because it's great to do like the certain track stuff and just race a normal point series like that, but there isn't very many traveling point series around anymore, and then although last year it wasn't because they couldn't go anywhere else, we had to stay at Luskville, but when we can get back into traveling to different tracks, that's a lot of fun.
Really fill the gap, like at least out east that I could see, like there's a lot of racers out east that travel to the US, and when you can't get down there, right, it was a real good filler, and I don't mean it in a derogatory sense, just to fill that gap on the fact there was no access to racing for those racers, right? And even out here, I mean, we had the 660 nationals, sportsman nationals, right? And that's a big event. That was a big event. It came off really only 3.5 weeks of planning, right?
Yeah.
And filled a void for the I've almost forgotten the name of it now. That's good and bad at the same time, but the
Beaver Big Buck.
The Beaver Big Bucks. Yeah, that's how much time I've spent trying to forget about that, I guess, right? But like Ian Hill and Drew Buchner, in 3.5 weeks pulled off what was probably the biggest event in our part of Ontario. Like they paid out $93,000. I saw in a post from Ian about an all total payouts. They had 2 10K shootouts, main events in box, main events in no box, stock, super stock, junior, bike sled, 650 index, which is really taking off out here as like a local, index class that just is growing legs, right? But they really like it in top sportsman, top dragster. I knew I was forgetting something too, right? Yeah. But it's an event that like it really went off well, and on the heels of the fact that no one could get to the U.S. There's races in the East. We finally had a race out this way that was right in line with the money type stuff that you're seeing East and South to an extent, right? I mean, just an amazing deal. Like that was a fun weekend, and it went off so smooth. And it was so great to see East, West, North, South, if you want to count Fort Erie, like you know what I mean. We had a lot of racers come into it, and it really went well, right? And like I give a lot of kudos to them, because I've done a big event like that, and I've planned it for months, and didn't feel like I had enough time. And in 3.5 weeks, it was from concept to execution to done. Like 5:12 on Sunday night, they're handing out the final winners trophies, right? Like, unbelievable. It was a spectacular event, and I look forward to talking about it for next week. Looking forward to it. Like that's the second I heard it's happening, and I had the date. That's the first thing that hit the calendar, right? And it's really exciting, and it's in the backyard. Like for most of us out here, we have 3 tracks within 2.5 hours, depending on where you live. Like the funny part is being west. Like I am the most eastern western racer in this part of Ontario, barring a few other people, right?
Yeah.
And we got 2.5 hours to every track. It's very centralized, and to have something like that close and that big is just, you can't help but be excited, right?
Absolutely. I love for the 660 race, for myself to go and run Super Pro, there was, I ran a $2,500 race Friday, followed by a 10 grand shootout. Then there was a 7,500 to win race on Saturday, another 10 grand shootout, and then another 7,500 to win race. So like it was a stacked weekend with a lot going on.
Yeah. And if you had top dragster on top of that, if you had a fast enough whip with cash, right? Like
absolutely.
just bring spare motors and transmissions and just keep switching them out, because you're going to wear them out by the time you get to Saturday if you do enough.
Exactly.
It was and it works so, like, it was so smooth. Like, that was the part that really blew my mind on it, was looking at all these classes, and there's always been this bit of a stigma out here that, like, the more you put on paper, the harder it's going to be to pull off and make it work. And they did a great job. And we went down a car early on Friday, sadly, so I could only single, because the car I ended up driving around was not one that was going to double. I mean, it was already on fire going into the final against Darren. But and I don't mean that in the sense of, like, doing well. I mean, I think that thing couldn't get any hotter. I was changing oil on Sunday, and there wasn't much left in it, I think, just from burning off, right? But it was well won. Like, they gave you enough time, they made you run, and they got a ton done.
Absolutely. That's it. And then, as you know, right, there is stigma is not the right word, but, like, there is the reputation of not getting a whole lot done west of Toronto. Those races aren't really, very smooth. That was excellent, right?
Yeah.
That changed the whole kind of look at it, and is going to create a better trend for races in that area moving forward.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So this one here, like, this is the first time we're going to, like, share or show a comment. This is a great one. I don't know if Andrew saw it, but where is it? Is it coming up? There we go.
Yeah.
See, Jay's got it, right? Jay is our first shared comment on the Bracket Life broadcast.
I need to work on this. I do. I've had a few guys. I know Dale Gauthier and Trevor Tandy have held my feet to some fire and some flames about getting past Toronto, right? Like, what's it going to take to get over Toronto and on the other side? And we're working on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm that's the first comment. I'm sure it's not going to be the last. That's just how it goes. Moving next, a little bit different for, like, the bracket racing stuff, but time of just drag racing in 2021 in general, like Naperville Dragway, and we go there a fair amount. It's great, easy drive, just over 3 hours. A lot of great bracket races. But that came, like, a bit of a hot spot for pro mods for a little bit, at least, while they couldn't go south, with all their different shootout races or, the quick 8 stuff. They were whipping around. Like, I think Spencer Hyde, I think he went 377 there. Was like
it might have been faster than that. Maybe if there's someone out there online right now who can confirm that, like, because Scott Wildgust went too, and we've got a few connections to Scott and the Smokies Garage team, because they're on the other end of town from me. The Smokies is, and like, they went out there as well, and they were laying down some laps by the end of the year that just were unbelievable, right? Like, Canadian record type stuff, and they ended up parlaying a lot of that to head south, right, to was it Snowbirds? I think I always get those races confused, but
I do too, because there's so many, and, like, they're all pretty well the same, but, like, just because I don't pay attention enough. But I know, like, were they still in an 8 or 4? But, like, they both went deep. Like,
I think they were both in at 8 and had a shot at 4, or maybe both in at 4. I think right in the end on a 32 car field and running away with it, like, putting down laps, right?
Yeah. Here we go. Dozer says he saw a 369.
Yeah, that doesn't sound wrong, because I feel like they were in the 60s, but my memory's not good enough to go off that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what else went on? I know there were, like, so I didn't go a whole lot west. I was only there twice. But I know you were there for the NHRA National Open at Cayuga.
Yep. Yeah. So the National Open, now I might be wrong in 2020, but I don't think they had it at Naperville. They did run a super stock race, because originally they had planned and with the restrictions, but 2021 saw the NHRA Open return to Cayuga, Naperville. And it was way bigger than there was a lot of concern, I think, on some of us who do class race a bit, and we went to go run the 90 combo with our super gas setup, right, and bracket race. But they ended up with, I'm pretty sure, over 50 stock super stock cars. We had a decent turnout. 90 cars aren't huge in Western New York, Ontario, but I mean, we had 3 Americans show up. Like, it was the first Americans I think I'd seen in 2 years, because they could finally cross and like tons of talent. I mean, guys who've had single digits in IHRA and NHRA showing up to race. I mean, if there was 14 or 15 of us at 90, you know, the number wasn't indicative to how hard it was to go rounds at that race, right? And you know, and it was amazing to see. I mean, a Superstock ran for $5,000 on Saturday night. A good friend of ours, Drew Buchner, took the win over I think it was Chuck Nagy, and you know, just that special Cayuga Saturday night under the lights, you know, like the type of stuff that you just, you know, like I remember growing up seeing when we went to Cayuga, when we got there. Unbelievable event, you know, and they did a great job with it. Cayuga did a great job pulling off. I know Charlene left, not with the RCSS. She just donated her own time and her family. Like they went in to help make the bracket run. I mean, it was a great event. I mean, and the highlight of it was watching Bob Jennings. Bob for years wheeled a dragster in my series and around Ontario, and he'd moved into a door car. And he wheeled his Mustang to the mod over me Saturday night, much to my chagrin, and the Super Pro, and like 2 Wallies on Saturday night, right? The guy's on a high. He wheels into Sunday and wins Super Pro. You know, just like a stellar run, right? Like one of those things you're watching unbelievableness happen at once. And there was some great racing there because you were allowed to double. So anyone there was doubling up in stock, super stock to mod, or, you know, bracket, or like top to super. And like, it was an unbelievable race, you know, and like I've got it circled for next year, you know, and I got a lot of strong opinions on NHRA. I got a lot, you know, and there's some great people there. Like the Division 1 folks are really good. Like they were very, very accommodating. There were some Canadians, I can't remember their names to save my life right now, that were part of it. But like great folks, super happy to have had them come back up. We'll go back next year, you know, for sure. But it was great to see that all Canadian aspect to it. It did a great job. You know, the racers put on a great show, and it was really fun. You know,
Absolutely.
It was great.
So to circle back a bit, just because that's what we got helped out a little bit. So Louis says 365 and 363.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's getting it, right?
Yeah, that's
getting it.
Absolutely.
See, the comments are great. We appreciate it. I'm glad that everybody is in on it and helping out. Next, that, you know, was a big thing for me, and I kind of talked about it earlier, was Travis's race, Travis Ringeth, the Western Canadian Summer Classic. That's what it is.
Yep.
There's 4 words, so I always get them mixed up. But that was like, he did a similar thing to Ian and Drew, where he just kind of threw this together last minute, because for all those guys at West, like they've only got, I don't know how many, I'm probably going to get in trouble for this. I don't know how many there are, but like, I think there's like, I don't know, I want to say 3 or 4, maybe more, but like either way, they're all not close.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
there's a lot of windshield time in Western Canada to go from track to track, even home to a track. Right.
Yeah. And these guys are used to, you know, running all the NHRA stuff and everything else in the States, so that's even further of a drive, but they're used to doing all that. But now they couldn't. So they were very limited with what they could do. So he threw together a race, and I want to, like, the shootout races it was kind of a similar layout to Ian and Drew's, but that was awesome. Like, and that was when I first began to take notice of racing in the West in Canada. Obviously, BracketLife has privileged me to meet some new people that, you know, I've created great relationships with. That was tough. But so that's really cool to learn about it, and then to meet the promoters doing it, and, you know, how very similar it is. And we all kind of noticed that I don't know, if you're a bracket racer, you know, you're all pretty much the same, or we are all pretty much the same. Doesn't matter, you know, East Coast, West Coast, or North or South. Like, everybody just wants to go racing.
Yeah.
So
yeah. As much as there's times we look at things and go how much different it is here and there, at the end of the day, the differences are so minimal, right? You know, they're skin deep type things, right? But I'd seen some of the events, like the information on his event, and just paying attention to what's going on in Western Canada, only because, again, general interest, what the world is doing, right? Like, you know, pay attention to a lot of events in the U.S., stuff I'd never go to, just because I'm always intrigued by what different parts of the world are doing with a race, right? and how they promote it and payout structures. Now there's some really neat stuff out there, like how the
Rad Torque Raceway
Rad
now.
Torque Motorsports Park Raceway. I'm not sure. I haven't got that part down yet. I'm going to botch
Yeah.
that. Someone's going to call me on it. But like they do a lot of neat events out there, right? So it's kind of neat to see like what are they doing, because you look at Edmonton and like they're out in the middle of nowhere. Like they're not central to Western Canada, right? And they do a lot of great stuff. I don't. Was that where Travis's event was, or was it at?
Travis was at Medicine Hat.
Medicine Hat. Okay,
Yeah.
And even that's a neat track. I don't know if you ever looked at it. I know it's.
I've seen a few things because I've been trying to. I don't know if Travis is watching on this, but I've been really, throwing out the little hints that like it's just a plane ride away, and if he's not driving his race cars and somebody has to. I know Rachel wants to go to Alberta. Does she want to go to the racetrack? I'm not sure, but that's at least half a way to get me to go.
There's an upside here. So talking to someone else who was planning to do a race out there who no longer, we were looking at a map one day talking about it. I'm pretty sure there is a country style or a donut shop, a golf cart ride away from that track.
Okay.
It was a bit of a joke at the time during the meeting, but like any track that's that close to coffee runs and Timmy's runs is good in my books, right? Like it's a little bit like Grand Bend, just a touch further though there. So
yeah, exactly. Just a little. And then you and I, part of the conversation we had, I don't know what it was. It was a while ago now, I think, but we've talked a lot about the car counts that we've all been getting at these different races in Ontario, Quebec, and that, I can see through the comments like Travis here. I'm sure they can attest to the same thing. And obviously we know that with people, stuck here, let's use that word because that's an easy word to use. You have nowhere else to go. So your local racetracks, they're able to put on something appealing for the drivers. And I think that a lot of places have really stepped up and taken that opportunity to be like, hey, you guys are just sitting around doing this. Like, let's go race and let's, do some fun stuff and race for good money. I know like for us racing at Lutsville, we race a little bit less because now it's more of an every other weekend kind of deal. But now we run for, 2,500 each day. And the turnout has been massive. For a normal off weekend. It is, likely to have, 40 Super Pro cars. Yeah. And that's huge for our area for what we normally were getting on the regular points weekends.
Yeah. And that's, I talking to a couple of the promoters out here. 2020 was the eye-opening one, to be honest with you, because that was the first year we're like, what is this gonna do, right? Like Grand Bend specifically, where we raced a bunch, there was a lot of Americans that were regulars. Like they race at Grand Bend at every points race, and they can't make it over. They're not coming. What's this going to do? And the promoters told me like it was probably one of their best years for attendance in the sense of like participation. Like they were getting numbers that rivaled way back to the early 2000s, which even then was just a different year, it seemed like, and heard the same thing from kind of all three of the tracks. And 2021 wasn't much different. In fact, same thing, like some of our regular races now, the money went up a ton because you're getting 100 Mod ET cars on a regular points event, not, the Stratford Spectacular or the Labor Day or the Canadian Nationals, which drew great car counts too. But like you roll into a mid-July race and Mod's 55 minutes into round one, and they haven't called the next class. Yeah. And it's just, it was spectacular, which made for some great money racing, right? And it was fun and exciting stuff that you just, like, it came out of the woodwork. And I don't know if it's because, like, no one had anything else to do, so people went and bought cars to go bracket racing that had stopped, because what else was there to do? You couldn't go eat anywhere. You couldn't go to the movies, so let's go bracket racing again, right?
That's right.
But it was great. I mean, and he started the national event, the IHR Canadian Nationals at Grand Bend, which was, it was really neat. Like, that event had a lot of uniqueness to it, not only because of just how big it was, but like the first event that and again, correct me if I'm wrong, if there's someone out there, I'm pretty sure it's the first event I've seen in Canada that had an all Canadian showcase, like the top fuel cars, the A fuel cars, the funny cars, the pro mods, jets. Like the only class that had a single American in it was top dragster. There was one guy who was able to sneak across the border somehow and to run top dragster. Right. And I was parked near him all weekend and no one busted his door down to take him back. Right. But like all of it. And they put on a great show. Like that was one of the hands down. I mean, the fuel cars were running great. The A fuel cars were laying down laps that were just insane. Mercier, I'm going to
Yep.
botch that name, right?
You're there. You're there.
They brought
IER is A,
okay,
right? IER A.
yeah. I got that right.
Yeah.
I think they brought their nostalgia nitro car and their
Yep.
top fuel, and like I think the only nostalgia car maybe ran Friday, it may have run Saturday too. I just don't remember off the top of my head, but like made fantastic runs. The pro mods were fast. Like it was one of those fields that was incredibly quick, right? And it highlighted guys like the Spencer and Scott, right, and a whole bunch of the top sportsmen. I mean, that's another one of those classes that we used to rely a lot on American racers to kind of complement it and top dragster, and all those boys and girls showed up and put on great passes, great show, and it was really neat, to see that it could be done. And that was one of the issues I remember talking about 2020 was like, if 2021 we can do this, but the borders closed, how did this event happen? Like, is there enough? And there was more than enough great racing to happen there. And we have a lot of people that come into our auto shop that are fans who go to those events, have been going to it since its inception, right? And they knew, what was happening, and they were very pleased. Like, and from a sportsman car count, I mean, it was just insane. It was so big, the race. It was almost a bit of an issue because it was just so many cars. It actually ended up taking 3 days to finish it just because of weather, which affected it. But I think there was 120 mod cars. Insane. Just for, it was an IHRA spectacular event, I think, too, which was one of their bigger promoted races, right?
Yeah.
But unbelievable race, just unbelievable.
And that's like for myself, like growing up, the Canadian Nationals was always, I always loved going, right? Because when you're a young kid, you go and watch like the fuel cars and the funny cars and pro mods. And, like we talked about last night, the Mountain Motor Pro Stock stuff, like that was so cool. And to see everything, and then especially to know that those cars are still around, because it started to not, like, I don't know if fade away is the right word. Yeah. You just don't see them as much. I don't see them as much. So nice to have them all kind of.
And that was actually, I forgot all about them too, because they had Mountain Motor Pro Stock cars there from number 9 Auto Wreckers. That's all I remember for their name. Terrible. All right. Yeah. I got to brush up on this for next week. This is not good.
Right.
But
got to start somewhere, right?
That's it, right? Walk before we run. But this is tripping a little bit. But yeah, like it was neat to see some flashback. Like, I mean, you had everything that you would have seen at some of the original stuff, not in the sense of the quantity, right? Yeah. But like everything was there, and they put on a great show. It was just awesome to see.
Absolutely. And then that kind of like that all kind of everything to this point leads us into the bracket finals event that we both attended. Yep. We both had teams in. My team didn't do as great. So that's life. We were a little handicapped on the entrance. So, the weather forecast didn't help out.
No, that was that was a fun weekend and a hard weekend in a lot of senses. Yes. I mean, that forecast was terrible. And I remember the behind the scenes discussion where we're as a group, all the tracks and anyone who had a team in, we were there with the Smokies Outlaw team, and what do we do? Like, do we drag everyone to Grand Bend for 3 days in the rain? And if we do, what's the backup plan, right? And at the end of the day, we decided to go ahead with it. And I'm glad we did. Like, I was really on the fence. I'll say it in public. I mean, that was a race where it's like, I don't know what we're going to do here, but this is a tough one. And what a race it was. Like, we ended up taking 2 days of racing in out of the 3 that were on the slate. Main event on Saturday. And like, what an event. Like, that was an unbelievable main event. Every team, I think, had someone who went deep. Like, we had Nick Hessler went to the final in street for the Smokies Outlaw team. Chris Van Balen was in the final for Bracket Life in mod.
That's right. Team Bracket Life is representing.
That's right. St. Thomas, they had racers go deep. ONDR had some racers go deep. Like RCSS. I mean, the final round at that race to determine the team deal was that's the type of thing you go to a bracket finals for, right? Dustin Taylor, Chris Van Balen, Mod ET final. Dustin's wheeling his uncle's car. I think the Malibu was broke. Like, the car he normally would drive, right? It's down. So they're in the Mustang, and he's down a point. his team's down 1 point. If they wins the round, he ties it up. And I think if he wins the round, he also generates the tiebreaker for the win. So like you're in the Mod ET bracket finals final, you win it. You not only win the race for yourself, you win it for the team, and end up laying down a great race. There was a double breakout race. Both racers put up a great run. Dustin came out on the right side of it and won it, and then that's it. Like that was the team finals, right? If he loses it, RCSS doesn't win it. If he wins it, RCSS wins the whole thing. And I think going into even round 5, like there was 4 teams in contention, going into it. We were hanging around. RCSS was in there. GBM, I think St. Thomas, and like just a fun deal, yeah, I remember freezing our butts off on the starting line. It was so miserably cold, right? And they kept the track in. I mean, kudos to Grand Bend. Like there was some fast stuff there, making great laps. And that event was, I'll remember that one for a while. That was a good time.
Yeah. I know that I can't exactly remember what kind of happened, why I was eliminated from that race, but
it wasn't from the burnout though, was it? I'm pretty sure
it was not from the burnout. No, I think that, I was hoping there was at least a bit of a cheering section, hoping I kept going just for the burnouts, but I'm not sure if there was. But I went in, like we ordered pizza. We were going to take the barbecue out, but I was like, not a chance, right?
Yeah.
We ordered pizza. We had that. It was awesome, right? We had a blast. We don't get to go, west of Toronto very often. Just that, I said earlier, like we only did it twice last year. So it was really cool to go and then see so many new people. And then people that you've known, that you used to race with 10 years ago.
Yeah.
All people I used to run juniors with. But now we're all in big cars or, racing, whether it's, semi-pro, super pro, whatever. Yeah. But you kind of see those people again. So it's a lot of fun. I really had a blast.
Yeah, no, it was a great deal. And to have everyone come together like that, like there's a lot of territories type thing, like RCSS to St. Thomas to Grand Bend, and to have everyone under the same, at the same track at the same time, like that was a lot of fun, and have a lot of our friends from out east come out there again. Like, I said, like the 660 race was great to see folks that you just hadn't seen in forever, right? And to have it again, at the end of the year was just fantastic, right? Like, and I know the funny part was the 660 race. There was a ton of guys talking about heading east, and I feel a few guys did. I know for like the end of the year race, right? But we all met up at the bracket finals, and there were some guys who went to Luskville who were like, "That was fun," and like there was a lot of notes shared about like what to do for 2022. Like you got to go out there once or type of thing, right? And they had their butts handed to them. There was a lot of learning to do on their end, but like it was a trip. Right. So it was something else.
We had a blast. We had a blast when everybody came because I know like the bracket bonanza was huge, and like had huge participation from Western racers, Western Ontario racers. So that was really fun. And it's like you just said, like I hadn't seen those people in a long time. And then we go to Grand Bend, for example, and then you can only talk to so many people. But when they come, to Luskville, like they come to our place, then it's a lot easier to really connect with them because you're in your zone, where everybody is and what's going on. You're not overwhelmed by it. So that was a lot of fun. And that kind of like, I'd love to have a super tour team do the bracket finals or figure out a way to include it all together because, and it's been brought up. We see it all the time, right? The East versus West stuff. That's what we want to happen, right? Like everybody has something to prove. That was, the 660 race was that to a certain point, like the East versus West kind of showdown.
It really was, right? Like there was, I remember being just prior to the event, there was a points race, I think at Grand Bend, maybe St. Thomas, probably Grand Bend. And we were sitting down talking about that and the excitement level, even prior to that with the other race, right? That didn't happen. But like, I thought like all the Eastern guys are coming West. And it's funny because like, there was lines that people wanted to see where people stood on, like how good is the East versus the best of the West, right? And the Northern guys, like there's guys up North that always get discounted on this because of, there's no track, right? But like there's a lot of Northern racers that come to GBM. There's a lot. They also go to Luskville and
Like
Naperville, right?
all on LA Lake, like they do all that stuff. There's a great racers that go to those events.
That's it. And they were coming, like this was going to be a collection of the guys. And this was going to be one of those races where we're like, all right, we're going to see what's what here. Right.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it was kind of how you picture it, right? Every kind of group took a victory there in some manner, right? Like, and that's why, again, I look forward to it next year because I feel like that aspect grows, even though it's an unofficial part of it, it just feels like a measuring stick unofficially, right? To
for sure.
where
And
we stand.
yeah. And I know like we're getting close to like, hitting the 45 minutes and we knew this was going to happen, right? Because you get so nervous before. You're like, oh, is this even enough to talk about? But like, you knew it was
30 seconds of commentary here. That's it, right? Like,
exactly. I know because I got guys watching it. Everybody's going to be all over me if I don't say it. The 660 race, I believe the East won to a certain point. If we want to get into that, I don't think we got time for it right now. I know myself. I was fortunate. I won the Friday race.
Yep.
Ran my cousin Nathan in the final. Saturday night, Dom Vincelli won. Not to like put you on the spot. It's a little like I just thought about this. I got to bring it up though. And it's Saturday. Yeah, you won Saturday's race.
Yeah.
Darren Frazo, Super Tour racer in the final.
Yep.
Steve Parkhurst, my uncle, Super Tour racer in the semifinal.
Yep.
Shootout race. I don't think that shootout race we did very well. I don't think the East did very
that
well.
was Dean Schwimler over Benny Smith, who was in both 10K finals and one top dragster. So if we're going to go down that road, there's 3 finals and a win right there.
There's 3. So we're each at 3. Finish it off. I think, sealing the deal.
The final on Sunday. There's the one. Rock.
Yes.
Dean, and Jeremy Van Bastler on a bike.
Yes.
That dude, I think, went more rounds than just about anybody that weekend on a bike. Every time I turned around and was going to the lanes with either my car or someone else for a late round, all I seen was Jeremy towing up there on a bike. Like he was in deep on everything. And at the end of the day, it was a split and quit in the final on Sunday. Right. Yep. So
absolutely. And so side note about Jeremy though, the last 3 times I have been to Grand Bend, I have been set up to race him at least once each time. And it has rained or something had went on that I did not get to race him each time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But he's always there.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Every week, like he's in deep on stuff. And I'm not, someone will correct me on this one. I'm pretty sure at the start of that weekend, I was talking to him and he was on a different bike than when he normally rides. And there was some conversation, like, wow, things are different because like everything, the way it shifted, the way it left, how it left, like all this stuff, right? And he goes, well, we'll see what happens. And I think it was that weekend. And at the end of the weekend, I'm like, the problem here was what? Because, it looked fine to me, right? But
exactly.
Like unbelievable deal. But like a neat way to finish it all off the other day when the discussion happened of who wins it all in the final round where it's East and West. It's a draw.
It's squared away, right? Exactly. Yeah. No, it was great. It's a great event. And then I'm really looking forward to it. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we're looking forward to, obviously. And that's going to be on the list for 2 weeks from today, February 1st, if I'm not mistaken. If somebody corrects me on that, I can look at it. I think I said to you
February 1st. You got it.
I'm on this. See, semi-professional now.
Yeah, we're rolling now, right?
Yes. So now we would normally do or what we would like to do is like the end segment, kind of go through the comments and stuff. I know we've been trying to keep up with them as we went. So we appreciate all that. Glad that everybody did tune in for the first BracketLife broadcast.
Yes.
I definitely had a lot of fun. I'm going to have a lot of fun doing this all. It's neat seeing how many people are paying attention to it. Hopefully the number keeps growing. Hopefully everybody keeps paying attention to it. In 2 weeks, if all goes well, we will have Travis on with us to, give the West Coast opinion on it. Keep everybody a little bit in line before we start, talking too much.
I'm sure we're going to get some earful on this one after some of the one-sided comments with no representation from the West, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. But yes, thank you everybody for watching and checking it out. Like I said, hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave a comment on it. We can check them out later. Send us a message. Let us know what you thought about it. like the Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you get all the notifications for when we're going live again. All the posts and updates, we'll let you know, right? There'll be ample notification to let you know when this is going on again.
If you
So,
don't know, you need to get out under the rock that you're under, right?
That's right. Exactly. So thank you guys very much. And we'll be talking to you.
All right. Thanks, guys.